You're watching Coping with COVID-19 with Chris Manners. Today's special guest is Joaquin Torres.
Hi, I'm Chris Manners and you're watching Coping with COVID-19. Today my guest is Joaquin Torres. He's the Director of the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, and he's here today to talk to us about some of the programs the city has put in place during this crisis, specifically to help small businesses and vulnerable and disconnected residents. Mr. Torres, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Chris.
Let's start by talking about Give to SF. It's an umbrella program that seems to be providing many of the resources we're going to be talking about. Could you tell us a little bit about the focus of Give to SF, and then we'll drill down and talk about some specific programs?
Sure. I very much appreciate the question, and for anyone who is watching right now, so much of the work that has been able to be accomplished to serve our most vulnerable residents has been because of very generous donations to the Give to SF COVID-19 Response and Recovery Fund. Over $28 million has been fundraised to support areas as important as housing stabilization for vulnerable communities, for food security programs, which we know has been a big issue not only here in San Francisco, but in the region, up and down California, and of course across the nation. And then also very much thinking about our workers and our family members who may not have had access to state and federal programs in the same way that others who were impacted have and do. And that was really to make sure that families and workers were supported with relief programs to support their overall needs. And then finally, our small business community, making sure that they had access to both loans and grants. And we're very excited about how diverse we've been able to do this work, how iterative we've been able to roll these programs out to ensure that our communities are supported by our city together with all of us, with city funds and with philanthropic dollars to make them, to help realize them on behalf of the community's needs.
Well, that's great. Now, many of our small businesses don't have large payrolls, so they were unable to qualify for the federal PPP loans. Does the city have any active programs that are available for small businesses to help them with ongoing expenses, such as rent, while they're still closed?
Certainly. So one of the programs that we launched in partnership and because of the ability that the Give to SF Loan Fund presented us with was specifically for loans and grants to do just that. We knew, especially in the beginning, that it was not always easy for smaller businesses who weren't connected, or even those who were, to get an answer around relief that was provided through PPP. We've seen some level of success with that program, but we knew it was important at the time to also have our San Francisco Hardship Emergency Loan Program, our SFHELP program, be launched and designed to support businesses who needed those resources the most. We've committed here $15.5 million in ongoing COVID-19 small business financial relief. And we've awarded grants and loans to over 400 small businesses thus far. We wanted to make sure that we were equitable about that approach. We are always guiding our work through an equity lens and a racial equity lens. One of the most important pieces was ensuring that every single district would be represented, and then also our more equitable work and the places where we were doing that work would be supported through these efforts. We granted in the first phase $1 million to 128 small businesses in 29 different neighborhoods with up to $10,000 in funds to support those who were experiencing loss. We set aside a minimum of $2 million for low and moderate income business owners in those low and moderate income communities to ensure that they were supported with the relief efforts that we had. Neighborhoods like the Lower Fillmore, the Bayview, some segments of the Castro and Upper Market, and the Excelsior. And so longstanding businesses were particularly thought of as well to be supported because they've given so much to the city, and we wanted to make sure that we were giving back to them as well. And then because we're looking for additional funding sources, we took dollars that we had with existing partners that were already with our partners to do small business work and help convert them to support women entrepreneurs around San Francisco and also in very specific neighborhoods for mini grants that could help serve some immediate needs. Every little dollar helped.
Can we talk about one of the programs that's just become available, the Right to Recover program?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're asking about the Right to Recover program, Chris. It's one that we know that's extremely valuable right now as we look as a city to incentivize community members who are most disproportionately impacted by COVID right now, both in terms of the economic hardship they're experiencing, the spaces that they need to work in because they need to provide for their families. Having access to the economic relief or wages that you count on to protect yourself, stabilize your families, support your families and your children or your parents or your extended family, that is a huge disincentive if you believe that you may not have access to paid sick leave, to quarantine, to do what all of us want you as a community member to do. If you're sick, to get tested. If you test positive, to quarantine and stay home so that you can get better and not infect anyone else. That comes at a cost. You're not going to work, you're not making your wages. And for so many of our low-income workers, that's simply not acceptable. So Right to Recover was meant to provide relief for up to those 80 hours of work, potentially more based on the specific issue of an individual, to give them their minimum wage compensation for that period of time so that they knew when they walked into a testing site, that they knew that when they said, if I test positive, is there a program to help me? That we could say yes. That was extremely important to Mayor Breed, extremely important to Supervisor Ronan, and the two of them worked together through the Give to SF program to make these $2 million available to support these individuals. And together with the Department of Public Health, we have a holistic system to ensure that we're filling those gaps that may exist, that encourage people to get tested and do the right thing. Wearing their mask, maintaining social distancing, not going places if they're sick, really monitoring, but also us doing our part to make sure that they were incentivized to do so as well.
That's a great program. Catching the virus but not having sick pay would be really stressful.
Yeah, I think also, it's important for our undocumented population. We know that the Latinx communities in San Francisco represent more than 50% of the positive cases, but also those who might not also have access to paid sick leave or experiencing financial hardship during this time, for them to do the right thing as well and to quarantine, but have that financial relief. It's in so many ways, it hits so many boxes that benefit the city and county of San Francisco.
Absolutely. So I understand we're about to start another new relief program, the African American Small Business Revolving Loan Fund. How will that fund work?
Well, I'm very, very proud of this of this fund, and I really do have to give a huge shout out to our Invested Neighborhoods team, who worked day and night together with the African American Chamber of Commerce and our partner in doing this work, Main Street Launch, who is also supporting our general 0% interest loan program up to $50,000. We have been looking and striving to be more specific and targeted in supporting our communities of color, and most specifically supporting our African American small business entrepreneur community. We know it's so much more difficult for this community in particular to access resources, and we knew it was important to do something in this moment that's reflective of a movement that all of us know has been in motion for such a long time. For us to do something real, provide financial relief for the community in this way and for them specifically. And we're very, very proud that we've been able to get this up and running, and we're looking forward to applications being live so that people can begin to, from the African American and Black communities, Black business communities, to get that relief. Flexible terms, forgiveness up to a certain amount for those funds, up to $50,000 for those loans, which can make a huge difference, not only for relief when you're thinking about what rent might be for a small business, but also in terms of long-term recovery. And then also being smart about the moment that we're in right now. There are businesses who have the ability to be open, even a little bit. It's still a stress on them, but there are others who don't have that ability to do this at all. Where is their relief? While they wait for all of us to do our collective part to ensure that we can continue to reopen, these dollars, very specifically for the Black entrepreneurship community, are deeply important to ensure their long-term viability, success. That's not only good for them, that's good for our city, the diversity of our city that we hold dear and that we need to continue to be proud of.
Quite right. Do we have any active programs for disconnected or underserved communities?
Absolutely. I mean, As I was mentioning, just simply about the Right to Recover program, when people go to the Mission Hub at 701 Alabama within the Mission District to serve the community, they're providing food security, they're providing access to resources. And what they've done is absolutely extraordinary in terms of not only partnering with the city in terms of relief efforts to help pay and maintain food distribution for families, but things that are important like masa in the Latinx community, that they could do so many dishes with that one staple item. They needed to have access to that, access to rice, access to cereals, access to dairy, access to milk, access to butter, all part of a care package with fresh fruits and vegetables for families, all right there at the Mission Hub. That's happening not only in the Mission, but across the city in its entirety in those areas of need to ensure that those programs are made available for our most vulnerable communities, whether they are seniors or families who desperately need that help.
Finally, is there a website that's specifically designed to provide access and information about all of these resources?
Certainly. I think one of the easiest things to do, especially if people have a very general question and they don't have access to the internet, call 311 and reach out about one of those programs. We've been working very closely with them to ensure that their members and their staff have all the information they need to get you what you need as you call in. And then most specifically for workers, for employers, for nonprofits, to go to our website, oewd.org, and just click on COVID-19, which is a large button once you come to that site, and you will find a full list of information that's specifically designed for you as an employer, as a worker, and as a nonprofit, so that you know where to go for resources. Also, our phone number, 554-6134. For the small business hotline. The incredible staff at the Office of Small Business are always administering those lines, and if they don't answer right away, they will get back to you, so you can talk to a real person to get you what you need in multiple languages. And then also email sfosb@sfgov.org. That's sfosb@sfgov.org. But again, just visit the website oewd.org, and you can find that information. In terms of workforce, 415-701-4817, 415-701-4817, and someone will get back to you if they don't pick up immediately to answer your questions if you're a worker. And then, of course, finally, to donate. Give to sf.org. Give to SF. .org. All that information you can again find on our website, oewd.org. Whether you need resources or you need to have an understanding about how we're phasing reopening or up-to-date information, please do visit us. We will get back to you, and we look forward to serving you in the community to help all of us get through this very, very challenging time.
Well, that's great information. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Mr. Torres. I really appreciate the time you've given us today.
It's an absolute pleasure, Chris, and thank you so much for helping get information out to our communities so people that are aware that your government is hard at work on your behalf to get you what you need. Again, during a very dynamic and challenging time. So thank you.
Well, thanks again. That's it for this episode. We'll be back with more pandemic-related information shortly. You've been watching Coping with COVID-19. For SFGovTV, I'm Chris Manners. Thanks for watching.